Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Establish Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show, the second to last edition of the regular season version of this show. 5 games on the slate, but still filled with plenty of injuries, incentives, and tanking to discuss. With me to do it as always, Mike Gallagher. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I just finished prepping about 30 seconds ago for this. We just finished a really nice best ball pod with you, me, and Chris Lafagas. It should be out later today. If you're into best ball streets, I could pretty much guarantee that you will like it.
Yep. Let's get into today's slate. There are not much in the way of playoff incentives for this slate. It really comes down to the Thunder are on the slate, and they are now tied with Dallas, but basically they have the tiebreaker, so they control their own destiny with their final 2 games here. This being one of them for them to be able to get into the playoffs, and so they'll be going full out in a matchup at Utah, where Utah has played well at home, even despite being down guys of late. They took the Lakers to OT. And then the Heat have a little bit of incentive. There's a very outside chance. The magic number is 1 now, so they need to win out, and Brooklyn needs to lose out for them to move up and out of the 7th seed and into the 6th seed. So they'll probably play their guys normally. They're playing a Philadelphia team that has just clinched up everything. The first 5 seeds in the Eastern Conference are already decided. If Miami lost tonight, we'd have the first 6 seeds in the conference decided going into the play-in situation, and we know who the play-in teams are. So there's very little left to do in the Eastern Conference. Why don't you talk about the teams with incentive to lose tonight?
What an on-brand way to ask. So we've got the teams that are all playing. Only 2 teams have their lottery position locked. The number 1 team Pistons and the number 4 team Charlotte. We talked a lot about this 5 through 8, and it's a big reason why you're seeing the Blazers doing what they're doing right now and doing it quite successfully, except for the Timberwolves. But this is probably the biggest. Actually, yeah. Tank Bowl. Do they still do that? I guess I don't have it. They used to do like the tank rating of the game. This is like outrageously high. With Portland playing San Antonio, we've seen San Antonio tank. They're trying to catch the Rockets. It'll be tough with the way that the Rockets are actually playing well. So there's a chance they could catch them to move them up to number 2. That would give them the 6th worth pick if things go poorly for them. So I think they're interested in doing that quite clearly. So that's really the biggest tank game. The Magic are not tanking. They've been playing their guys through. Comments from Jamal Mosey saying this is important for them. We saw this with the Wolves a couple of years ago. Certainly a little different because their pick was protected. But it's really just those 2 teams that are like clearly tanking. The Jazz are kind of Orlando West. They're holding Laurie out, but besides that, they've been playing most of their guys, namely Kelly Olynyk. So we shouldn't be in for too many shenanigans with the Magic and Jazz, but expecting major shenanigans in this Blazers Spurs game.
Yeah, and the injury reports are littered on those 2 games. We'll talk through them more. Should just note, in terms of those East seeds wrapping up, there's no incentives for the Cavs who are locked in, the Suns who are locked in, the Nuggets who are locked in, and the Sixers who are locked in. We'll talk through the injury reports there, but keep that in context. And there's really no incentive for the Sixers because Joel Embiid declared the MVP race over. So, or I guess Doc Rivers did. I shouldn't say Joel did. Yep. But so there's not a lot to play for on the slate. Let's get into the individual injury stuff. We'll kind of go game by game here and talk through it. In terms of this Cavaliers Magic game, the Cavs are mass resting. So there's no Evan Mobley, there's no Jared Allen, there's no Darius Garland, no Donovan Mitchell, no Karis LeVert. What are you expecting things to look like for no Isaac Okoro as well? What are you expecting things to look like for the Cavs tonight?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about, I guess, really 3 starters. And that's going to be, I think Jetty Osman's a lock. I think he's going to be playing big minutes. I was actually talking to Schefter, who interrupted the show yesterday, saying to pick up Jetty Osman for big minutes. The point guard situation's a little dicey. We know Ricky Rubio, who topped out at 25 minutes. He would probably be the favorite to start, right? But they want to keep his minutes down. I think that's probably a concern. So I think they puts Howell Neto as a candidate. I think we could pretty much pencil in Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade also for the other 2 starting spots. And then Robin Lopez, versus Dikite that would be the other fifth spot, and that's those 7 guys I named are most of the rotation. We'll probably see a little bit of Evan Mobley's brother, Isaiah Mobley, getting minutes. Maybe Sam Merrill gets some minutes as well. But yeah, could expect pretty big roles out of Jetty Osman, both the point guards. They're going to be guys we're talking about. Dean Wade's certainly not a big usage guy. Robin Lopez, not a big usage rate guy either. But the value looks to be in the backcourt.
On the Orlando side of things, their injury report is pretty clean here with just Jonathan Isaac listed out. So are there any notes you want to cover on Orlando before we move on?
Mosley hasn't really been saying too much. He's been saying like the same. He's been like the toy where you like pull the strings. It's like the same like 5 things. So it's been he's moved up my boring press conference rankings. Just hashtag our Magic are down bad in that department.
All right, let's move to Miami and Philadelphia. As we alluded to before, Miami is still has something to play for in terms of potentially getting out of that 7 seed, which every team would love to get out of the 7 seed in the East if they had it, because you get guaranteed into the playoffs and you get a matchup against Philadelphia instead of Boston, which seems a little bit better as well. Bam Adebayo was originally listed questionable. He's been upgraded to probable with left quad strain. Kyle Lowry forever listed questionable with left knee soreness. What are your thoughts on the Heat and their two tags on the injury report today?
Yeah, it seemed like they were iffy on Bam, but they're going to try. Spoelstra kind of wants to do the best he can here based on what he's talking about. I think Jimmy's hashtag competitive spirit also a factor in this one. So, yeah, despite how they only have 97% chance to move out of their spot into the non-playing section, it sounds like they're going for it. So we could probably expect clean stuff. Very, very famous last words with the Heat, but Bam getting upgraded probable is a pretty good sign. I wouldn't quite lock him in. I think it just makes no sense to play Kyle Lowry. I think they just hold him out for the rest of the season here. He's obviously been playing through stuff. Certainly the age, miles on the tire. So I expect Lowry to sit. Probably going to get Victor Oladipo entering the rotation. They seem to be pretty comfortable with the Kevin Love stuff off the bench. Wouldn't be totally shocked to maybe bring in Cody Zeller instead. That way you could take a little bit of pressure off Bam with the P tag. So I think those are kind of so. Basically, my point is here: Cody Zeller and Victor Oladipo, probably the 2 favorites to enter the rotation if they did want to sit Lowry out. But they might sit Lowry out and just say, hey, one more game, and then we'll just sit you out, and we'll probably be eliminated and have nothing to play for on Sunday.
All right, Philadelphia side, we noted they have absolutely nothing to play for, but the injury report isn't as littered as you'd think. James Harden, Joel Embiid, not on the injury report today so far. Tyrese Maxey, D'Anthony Melton, and PJ Tucker all listed questionable here. Obviously, with nothing to play, it would seem like why not just get, especially like Tucker, why not get these guys time off? But what are your thoughts here for Maxey, Melton, and Tucker?
Yeah, my first thought is, well, I don't know why they wouldn't sit Harden today and sit Embiid tomorrow. That was odd to me. So I don't know. Anyways, I think they're sitting guys. I think all these Q tags are out. So that means probably going to get Shake Milton in Maxi spot, assuming both Maxi and Melton are out. Obviously, if just Maxi, it would be D'Anthony Melton. And then we've seen Daniel House get the start for PJ Tucker. So I would lean in that direction. We could also maybe see McDaniels slide in that spot here. And then also too, just keep an eye out for more stuff. They've got nothing to play for. Maybe they want to. Maybe this is I guess actually what makes sense is like, hey, Miami's dangerous. We don't really want him in there. We'd rather push him down and avoid him in the first round. Jimmy Butler is a madman. So maybe that probably explains it, right? Like, okay, let's play these guys today. That's got to be the reason. Okay, so I take that back. All right, but I think I laid everything out. Anything else you want to add if you want?
No, I think we'll see. I think these might be more legitimate questionable tags. I think we'll see more substantial resting from Philadelphia tomorrow would be my guess.
Yep.
Let's move to Portland and San Antonio, where there's tons on the injury report to cover here. Let's start with Portland, where they have, 15 guys listed on the injury report. So the out tags are Jeremy Grant, Keon Johnson, Damian Lillard, Nasir Little, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, Justice Winslow. The doubtful tag is Matisse Thybulle. The questionable tags are Trendon Watford, Shaden Sharp, Cam Reddish. Probable tags on Kevin Knox and Drew Eubanks tonight. So what are your thoughts here on what we see from Portland?
So let's start with who we know is playing. That's Skylar Mays, Shaq Harrison, Jonathan Williams, John Butler, Jabari Walker, and Justin Minaya. That's who they're going to have for sure. That's 6 guys. I think that if Shaden is in, that might be it. They might hold Eubanks out. They might hold Watford out. They're probably going to hold Cam Reddish out. They might hold Knox out. They want to lose this game really, really badly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see everyone. If Sharp's in, he's in. But if he's out, maybe they pull from Knox or something and bring him in. And that way they've got their 7. But I kind of feel they're going to just run 7 out today. So there'll be a lot of value. We know how bad San Antonio's defense is. They want to lose this game the most of anyone we've seen this season. So, yeah, I'm expecting a really, really, really shallow rotation. I thought that they've been getting scared here ever since that Minnesota game. Look who they're starting against the Grizzlies, against the Spurs team, who's been horrible all year. I think they're going to really, really tank this thing that would make Sam Hinkie blush.
You mentioned Knox and Eubanks being viable questionable tags as well. They are listed probable, so
Yep.
you still think there's risk that they get pulled back in this situation?
I do, yeah. I think that they really want to lose this game. I mean, I'm not saying for sure, but I wouldn't be. I mean, don't treat those probables as questionables. Is how I'm treating it.
Okay. San Antonio side of things, their out list is Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Doug McDermott, Devontae Graham, Ken Burge, Charles Bassey. Their questionable list is Keldon Johnson, Romeo Langford, and their probable list is Zach Collins. So it sounds like we'll have Zach Collins available tonight. We'll have Trey Jones available tonight. Yeah. I mean, I'm treating like if you're going to list one guy probable and one guy questionable, what's the point? Yeah. It's not like Milwaukee where they list a guy probable and no one else questionable, and it's like, okay, there's no distinction here. They're drawing some sort of line in the sand. So it sounds like we'll have Zach Collins. Trey Jones not listed on the injury report. It sounds like he will be available. Malachi Branham not listed on the injury report. He should be fine. With Zach Collins potentially back, that would slide Sandro Mamukelashvili back to a reserve role, most likely. But what are your thoughts on what we see from the Spurs tonight?
Yeah, the Bucks are a pretty good franchise. Imitation, the sincerest form of flattery. Hey, they're using probable tags. Let's do it too. But yeah. So we know mostly who's going to start here. Trey Jones, who by the way said he's feeling healthy. He's sneaky today. I'm going to be talking a lot about him later today. So we got him, we got Malachi Branham, we got Keita Bates-Diop, and we got one of the centers, whether it's Zach with the P tag or Sandro Mamukelashvili, Devontae Graham, happily, or I hope he's okay, but we hit our under on him for those listened done playback, but he's going to be out probably for the season. He was legit hurt. All the best to him. So who's going to start for him? Assuming Keldon's out. I'm assuming Keldon's out. You got Champagny and you got Blake Wesley. I think those are the 2 candidates. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Blake Wesley. Hey, Blake Wesley's not very good. Let's tank. I think that makes a little bit more sense. So I think I would lean Wesley, but it could be Champagny. It's between those 2 guys if Keldon's out. But it could be pretty tight. We know Dominic Barrow's played pretty good minutes for them. No Doug McDermott. So it could be, really, really, there could legit only be 15 players in these rotations today and against 2 bad defenses. So as bad as this game is for how ugly it's going to be, there will be fantasy value aplenty.
Let's move to OKC and Utah on the OKC side. Lou Dort listed questionable with a right shoulder strain. Any news or notes on Dort's availability tonight?
Yeah, didn't get a note from Mark Daigneault after the game, but obviously huge game for them. Think he could certainly miss. That he's legit hurt. That's a real tag with a strain. So pretty easy situation to break down here. That it would almost certainly be Aaron Wiggins moving into the starting lineup. He's been, the pseudo version of Dort for how they like to put him on ball handlers in that aspect. A little lower usage as well, so he'd be looking a little more ball handling and shots for really the rest of the team as well. But they're pretty straightforward there. Isaiah Joe probably unaffected for the most part. A little bit more minute stealing. But you see right here, I mean, they were really trying, and this is all garbage time, these 3 minutes here. They were running. We saw Uzi Jang get a little bit of rotation minutes. That may happen here. So they might run it, pretty tight, a tight, 7.5 kind of rotation as well. But this could be a lot of good value here against Utah, who's been, really, really high scoring games out there.
Yeah, and I think the tightness of the rotation last game is a really good, important thing to point out here. Do you think if they were without Dort, do you think it loosens up a little bit, just because it becomes filling those minutes become like playing the matchups a little bit more and like who's hot hand, because these guys don't really separate when you get into like Usman Jang and Trey Mann and whoever else, Lindy Waters, if they'd consider him. I mean, like I think you'd see really tight minutes on J-Dub, Shea, Giddey, Isaiah Joe, and probably Wiggins. I think those five guys you'd see pretty tight minutes on. I think you'd see the same center rotation on Saric and Jalen Williams that you saw last game, but you'd still have to fill 36 minutes from Dort. And obviously some of those go to Joe and Wiggins as they get bumped up, but you still probably have another like 15 left over. My guess is that gets a little bit more spread out just because it's a little bit more of like a hot hand situation. You could see it go to Jeremiah Robinson Earl. You could see it go to Usman Jang. Like I think Jang is the most likely candidate to be that eighth guy essentially. But I think you could see that portion of the minutes a little bit more spread out.
I would add, I think if I'm entering, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if Usman Jang, it was all like developmental. I think they just want to give him like a minute to like, be in the spotlight for a minute. I think from an offensive role replacement, you're looking at Lindy Waters here, right? Like Lou Dort is really a floor spacer for them. He takes a lot of threes for them. So I think it would be Lindy as the guy we'd be projecting in more for me, just for how they'd want to run the offense. Maybe, Joe is elevated there, but they like the spacing Lou Dort provides. Aaron Wiggins more of a slasher, not a big kind of a floor spacing guy. So it's kind of a two-front war here, how to approach. But I think Lindy would be the next man in. We've seen him start, and they might even start him, right? We've seen Lindy start second half all the time.
Yep. Okay. Utah side of things, their injury report's a little bit more straightforward. No Larry Markkinen, no Colin Sexton, who had returned last game. No Walker Kessler, still in concussion protocol, expected to be lost for the season. No Jordan Clarkson, no Rudy Gay. Probable tag on Talen Horton-Tucker with left ankle soreness. Expect Talen Horton-Tucker to play, but with no Colin Sexton, we'll probably go back to a little bit bigger role for Chris Dunn in that second unit. What are your thoughts on how things are impacted for the Jazz here?
Yeah, pretty straightforward here. Looks like they're going to start Udoka Azubuike with 3-point gunner Damian Jones behind him. Damian Jones did close, and he played pretty well in the last game. So I think it would be the same starting lineup there with Luka Šamanić getting the start there. Chris Dunn will pick up minutes. Johnny Uzang would be back in the rotation here after getting booted. It would be mostly the same situation where Ochai Agbaji would play a bunch. Kelly Olynyk, we saw him have a really, really big role. I think Utah wants to play spoiler here. Danny Ainge is out here, doesn't really care about tanking. He's done enough with his offseason and picking up Walker Kessler and all those draft picks.
All right, Denver and Phoenix, the nightcap, the game that everybody thought they were going to be looking forward to, but with two teams wrapped up in seeding, not a lot to play for here tonight. On the Phoenix side, there's nobody listed on the injury report. We'll note, though, for Phoenix, it's the front end of a back-to-back, and they play the Lakers tomorrow. And while the Lakers' probability of getting the fifth seed did go down last night, Phoenix could put a coffin in it tomorrow if they wanted to. I shouldn't say if they wanted to. If they were able to win against the Lakers tomorrow. And so I'd just be a little bit concerned. I don't think they're going to play their main guys on a back-to-back. I don't think there's any reason to when they have nothing to play for. So there's a ton of questionable tags in the Nuggets. We'll get to that in a second. But I could see this injury report flipping on its head with Phoenix tonight if they choose to prioritize tomorrow's game. Now, if they're just prioritizing their own health and all those different things, it makes sense to just play tonight, take tomorrow off, and then play again on Sunday. You're creating more space in between games for everybody, and you can play relatively lighter minutes tonight, too. It was a blowout their last game. They could manage minutes. But what are your thoughts on Phoenix's approach tonight?
So the counterpoint would be, what are they playing for? They're playing for continuity, right? That's the only thing they're playing for right now. So that would be the case that they play everybody. So I'm with you there. I think the minute ceilings could be capped. Certainly Denver, we'll talk about them in a second. But I'm expecting them to play it straight here. I'm not really expecting any funny business just because they've only had seven games with Kevin Durant. They're going to be thrown into the fire against a really good team, whether it's the Clippers, who are coming off a big win, the Lakers, or the Warriors are the three most likely teams they're going to play. You need reps here. So I think I'm going to take them at their word for now. We'll see what comes up tomorrow. I agree that you need your reps. And look,
the injury report is what it is. So I think you're right that they're most likely going to play their guys tonight, because I think we'd get a bunch of questionable tags if they were going to do anything weird. But would you rather, if continuity is the primary goal, would you rather get the continuity and the reps against a team that's actually
100%.
playing playoff level basketball, or would you rather get it against the Denver Nuggets second and third string players? If I'm Phoenix, I would be like, I'd rather prioritize tomorrow's game. Those are more real reps than whatever you're going to get tonight, which is like kind of a practice game. But right now their injury report is clean and there's nothing to worry about. Should note that in their last game, which was relatively, not super competitive, they still got Durant up to 33, which is what we've talked about. Like 33, 34 is what they've been getting them up to. So I think that's still been the plan. I still think these guys, like in the case of Durant, I think he's still probably going to get his minutes, even if it's not competitive, at least like 31, 32, because I think they're building stamina there. Let's go to the Nuggets side. Questionable tags for the Nuggets: Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. That's the starters. Zeke Naji also with a questionable tag with a legit injury, right knee sprain. Not to say that the others aren't legit injuries. The Nuggets, Jamal Murray left last game. We saw Jokic miss 3 games prior. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been beat up. So these are all legit injuries for the Nuggets, but they have nothing to play for. It seems like a mass rest situation is upon us here. What are your thoughts on Denver, and what do you expect there?
Yeah, pretty obvious. This is a mass rest situation here. They got nothing to play for. Malone coming off a bad loss. I pulled the wrong box score up, but yeah, coming off a loss against the Suns here. No, I'm sorry, against the Rockets. Malone was really pissed. So maybe he punishes them, puts them out there. That would exclude Jokic, looks like he's playing through stuff. So I think as I pull through my notes here, I've got too many windows open. We're gonna probably get mostly the same stuff here. Reggie Jackson, Christian Brown, Bruce Brown, but the Aaron Gordon, he's probably sitting, I would say. So that leads us to believe suddenly, I think Peyton Watson's kind of leapfrogged Vlatko Konkar here. So I'd expect him to get the start. It could be Vlatko in that spot. But yeah, mostly the same. It could be Jeff Green too. But I think that they're really prioritizing this Watson thing. I mean, he's kind of come out of nowhere and given pretty good minutes. So I think he's kind of earned it there. So I expect that starting lineup. And then I guess DeAndre. Again, they went to it. Certainly wasn't too great. It wasn't really bad though. So I think DeAndre would probably have an inside track there.
So there's going to be a lot of value here, most likely from Denver. Obviously, with everybody questionable, we have everybody projected in now. We'll adjust on the news as it comes out. But the timing of that news might not come out with other games. We'll talk about all of this stuff on the DFS show at 5:00 Eastern today with myself and Mike Gallagher. But that'll basically do it for this slate. There's a lot to talk about. Join us behind the paywall at 5:00, where you can get more of the analysis and information on the good chalk, the bad chalk, the contrarian pivots, and of course the flag plants. We'll have it all there tonight at 5:00. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have plenty of they have daily NBA snake drafts for money running edition, many formats of NFL offseason best ball contests. We just did a podcast on the dance, the playoff contest for the NBA. They unleashed the waltz, the $250 entry as well. So there's a couple different contests there for playoff best ball, which check out and subscribe to our Established Run NBA podcast. You can find that on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to that. Get notifications when this next podcast gets posted, which is in editing now, and it will lay out the blueprint on how to attack the dance and the waltz. Whether you're a subscriber of ours and you have access to our rankings and projections, or whether you're not and you're looking for the strategy and the approach there, we'll have all that information. But if you're also playing NBA Pick'em on Underdog, in-season subscribers at ETR can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right, join us beyond the paywall at 5:00 Eastern. As always, if you're uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we ask for your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, feed that algorithm by smashing that like button. You feed the algorithm, it helps feed our families. We keep feeding you the injury information analysis you need to make your DFS lineups, your spread bets, your prop bets, so on and so forth. So feed that algo. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow with Justin Fan for the last edition of Established Run's NBA injury analysis regular season show. We'll have more details tomorrow on our schedule and our programming schedule for the playoffs. So see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.